Hello, welcome back to the channel. So in my last video, I said that Finon was probably the most broken character in the game. And I do think that was probably a bit of an exaggeration since I made that when he just came out. But I do still think he is good, and I do think some people are underestimating how good he is. Though I don't think he's on the same level as the top tier DPSs, you know? But that kind of got me thinking who is the most broken character in Sorrow? Which I do think is kind of pretty hard to say, since there are a lot of good characters in the game now, so what I'm going to do is pick a DPS, a support, and a sustain, and then at the end look at those three and decide which one of those is the best. Now one thing I do think is important, besides just how much damage they could do or just how strong they are, is how broad or versatile the character can be. So if they're really good, but only one team, or they really need specific characters to be good, then I don't think they are the most broken. Like a Goliath, for example, I do think can be really good, but she does really need Sunday and Ho-Ho to kind of take her to that next level. But without them, I don't think she's as good. And another thing is how good they are in all of the game modes, since if they're only good in Pure Fiction, for example, then I don't think that they're the best. So in terms of DPSs, I don't think we have a bunch of good options. You know, we got Anaxa, we got Maide, we got Finon, like I said, we got I'm sure there's others I'm not thinking of. But I think that the top contenders is Casters and Herta. I think you could go either way with this one, because I feel like they both fulfill very similar roles of just doing a lot of AoE damage. But they just play pretty differently. You know, Casters, you kind of just get her ult, and then you kind of just win because her ultimate does so much damage. But the same thing could also be said about Herta, because her main source of big damage is the follow-up from her ultimate. Not to say the other parts of her can't do big damage, just that's the main big thing for her, you know? The only reason I am maybe more inclined to pick Herta over Casters is because I feel like Casters is a bit more restrictive in what teammates she can have, because you really want to have either Luocha or Hyacinth or something with her, and she doesn't really have that many great options for supports. You mainly want Tribi and Remembrance MC or Ra and Mei. It just feels a bit more restrictive, and it is definitely a lot harder to get her ult consistently if you don't have Hyacinth with her. Whereas, not to say it's you can't get her ult consistently if you just have Luocha or something. I mean, that's who I use, and I still can get it fairly consistently. It's just not as good, you know? Whereas with Herta, I do think you have a bit more freedom, since she mainly just needs another Erudition character with her. The obvious one is mainly Anaxa, but even other characters, you know, Small Herta, you have Jade as well for mainly Pure Fiction. You have Serval, who can be a decent energy regeneration. Remembrance MC, since the ultimate does AoE damage. Even Argenti in some cases. I feel like she's just easier to use and build while having the same, if not better, damage in some cases. So I'm gonna go with Herta, but you could honestly pick either one, because Castris is so good, it's kind of nuts, even just because of her passive. Now for supports, I think it is a lot harder, because there are so many insane supports. Tribi is nuts in most teams in the game. Robin and Sunday are really good, even separately and together in a team. Remembrance MC is insanely good, because giving true damage to any DPS is kind of broken. Even Ron Mei and the new Silver Wolf are really good, though I don't think they are quite on the same level as some of the characters I just mentioned. But honestly, if I had to pick just one, I think I would have to go with Tribi. Because, one, I think she's the most versatile of all the supports. She can go in basically any team. And just, giving 24% all-type respite, which is probably one of the best stats you can get in the game, for basically free, is insane. And she can do good damage. And has, a 30% damage increase on her ultimate, and other characters deal additional quantum damage. I can't even really think of a single thing about her that is bad. But you could honestly say that about most of the Harmony characters. They're all just so good. Harmony is probably just overall the most broken path in the whole game. But I think I'm gonna go with Tribi just because she's just the most universal one that you can use. Now, for sustains, I'm not even gonna pretend it's Hyacinth. It's not even close. Don't get me wrong, there are other good sustains. You know, Ho-Ho is pretty great on a lot of teams, especially teams that need energy, and she might get even better when Saber comes out. Aventurine is great as well, for you just not dying, and for follow-up teams as well. You know, Langshot and Gallagher can be pretty great as well. But like Hyacinth is just like, I can't believe they made this character. Like, she's just so nuts as a sustain. She feels almost like the same thing as Trippy, where she can just do everything. Like, she has great healing. She even has like emergency healing. She buffs max HP, which makes characters like Trippy even better, and casters as well. She can do like really good damage because she gets like a free 100% crit rate. She gets a free 50% effect res. The only real downside I can think of is that she does need to use her skill like a lot to be able to actually use her ultimate, since that's where most of her value comes from. But like, that's not really gonna matter most of the time, because most of the supports that you're gonna use with her are gonna be mainly SP positive anyway, so it's not gonna matter most of the time anyway. Now, out of these three characters, you know, Herta, Trippy, and Hyacinth, who do I think is the best? Which, like, I guess this is kind of hard to decide because you kind of would want all of these characters in the same team. You know, like, Herta hits like a truck and is good in basically all of the content in the game. Trippy is probably like the best universal buffer, and Hyacinth is just the best sustain in the game. I feel like they're almost like as good as each other. They're basically like on the same level. But I think that if I had to pick the most broken character in the game, I think I would go with Trippy. Because if I have learned anything, is that supports are the most valuable characters to have in the game. Like, there will always be like more broken DPSs, and again, maybe not more sustains, since we barely get sustains in general. But you don't need that many sustain characters. But like, supports are really what elevate your damage to that next level, and like, and that is what, like, I think Trippy can do, is really just elevate any team that she's in to that next level. And can also do good damage as well. And she's also, like, really easy to use, since you're almost just never going to run out of her buff, since you want to make her pretty slow, so the buff almost never runs out. And she's pretty easy to build as well, since she scales off of HP. And she is one of the best users of Dance Dance Dance, which is arguably one of the best light cones in the game, since she gets her ultimate back really fast. Like, the only real downside I can even think of for her is that she doesn't have action advance forward like some other supports are. But that's not really going to matter on a lot of teams that you run her in, since you're just going to do so much damage that you're just going to kill the enemy so fast it's not going to matter. Or you just run her alongside an action advance support anyway, like a Remembrance MC or something. Now, you know, I do think it is, like, hard to decide who is definitively the best, just because a lot of the time, who is the best for you really depends on what characters you have and who you have invested in. So even if a character like Herta is probably like really broken, that doesn't necessarily mean that would be the best for your account if you already have other DPS characters. Which is why I think like people shouldn't take like tier lists and stuff and like what tiers characters are as like gospel, because a lot of it more has to do with like what investment you have done. But I feel like people take tier lists and stuff way too seriously. So I feel like a lot of people think that if a character isn't S tier, then they are just garbage. Which I think is not true at all. I feel like a lot of people underestimate how good characters actually are. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some characters that do definitely need help. But I mean, it is still pretty obvious when a character like Herta or Trippy or Hyacinth is broken. Because I mean, you could just feel it, like they're just so good, it's insane. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.